Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. I'm Jason Beckerman.
Jamie C.
Fabian here.
So, biggest story of the day, of course, is Kanye's angry once again about something that Kim Kardashian is up to with her TikTok account and
the
Davidson
kids.
and the kids.
Right.
What do we got here, Fabian?
So basically, he is reigniting the custody war. His gripe had to do something. It had to do with the fact that North was apparently not being allowed to come to Sunday service, and he claimed that Kim was pulling this last minute for him. And he said this was something that had been ongoing. He was railing on that, and in the same breath, he also mentions Pete Davidson, and he claimed that Pete Davidson had sent him taunting text messages about being in bed with his wife. It was pretty incoherent. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. He's like on camera praying.
At this point, it's going too far. God, please. The boyfriend texts me, antagonizing me, bragging about being in bed with my wife. I thought publicly for a year and a half. I've been dragged, and how she's not my wife. She don't have her last name, and now he texting me, talking and bragging about how he's in bed with my wife. And I'm like, well, who's watching my children if he's texting me bragging about being in bed with my wife?
The text that Kanye actually referenced, in fact, surfaced because Pete's friend, I think the guy's name is Dave Cyrus. He's like a writer for Pete and a friend of Pete's, fellow comic. He actually posted screen grabs of a text exchange that he said was actually between Kanye and Pete, and we verified that they are authentic. And they're from that same morning, from Sunday morning. And it's basically Pete saying, dude, it's 8 a.m. Why are you attacking us? Why do you continue attacking Kim? I've tried to be reasonable with you. I've tried being polite, and I've been quiet. But if you keep on pushing me, I'm not going to stay quiet anymore. And then eventually it gets to a photo of, Kanye asks him, where are you? And he goes, I'm in bed with your wife right now.
Good.
And then he sends him a photo of
So
himself
good.
shirtless, tongue out.
So your description of it was great. I want to read it real quick
Sure.
if we can, because it's Skeet,
Yeah,
which is
this is Pete-
Kanye's
yeah.
derisive name for
Right.
Pete Davidson.
So Pete's owning
responding.
it. Yeah.
Can you please take a second and calm down? It's 8 a.m. and it don't got to be like this. And then he goes, Kim is literally the best mother ever. And it goes on from there. But I just love that. It's Skeet.
Yeah,
so
he's
owning the
he's
name,
embracing the Skeet.
and then saying, just calm down.
Right.
Which is not Kanye's strong suit. Calming
No.
down.
The thing, I don't know how you took this or how you took it, Jamie, but like for me with this photo of Pete, it's weird because in one moment he seems to be supporting Kanye, saying, "Hey, dude, I struggle with mental health as well. It doesn't have to be like talking like a reasonable person, talking like he's the adult in the room in this,
And then he pokes the bear.
and then he literally pivots and becomes this juvenile punk, saying, "I'm in your bed with your wife." I thought that was low class and kind of scummy.
But it was such an epic setup. Like,
it was, yeah.
It was just a spike that I don't know how you don't take the opportunity.
I guess we as third parties can look at it and say it was immature and juvenile and the whole thing. But if you're Pete Davidson, you've been taking it on the chin from this guy for a month. You've been
taking the high road.
In animation, you've been buried up to your neck in a grave. You've been attacked constantly. You've been called bad names. You've been accused of all sorts of awful things, not just immoral things, but sort of borderline criminal things. And here you are sort of in a private text message. You're not doing it publicly.
Right.
In a private text message, it's like, hey, I'm also banging your wife.
More than that, Kim's going to be pissed seeing that.
Well, that's the thing. So he
Yes.
says in bed with your wife, and the fact that, I don't know, I mean, the divorce is still pending. It hasn't been completely finalized. She is technically single now. I'm sure that she doesn't like the label your wife. She's probably into herself. She's like, I'm not Kanye's wife. Like, why are you? And I wonder if he actually was in bed next to her. Maybe he was, but like, you would think that Kim would stop that or stop that from being sent or I don't know. It's weird.
Encouraging it. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, how she must be so annoyed and fed up with all this stuff. I don't know, Jamie. What's it like to be in bed next to a guy who's
next to an SNL star and my rapper husband is pissed? It's Monday. What can I say?
Yeah.
Right. I just the unfortunate part for this, because I think that Kanye kind of deserved this, whether you love Kanye or Pete Davidson or whatever. He kind of deserved this. He's been a jerk for a long time. But does this ratchet things up, or does Kanye say, boy, this is not a good look for me? I think it ratchets it up.
I think it's just another full tank of gas on the road trip, and I just wish I had a crystal ball of where does this end? How does this end? When does this end? I don't feel like any progress is made.
Yeah, to answer your question, it makes everybody look bad. Especially, it makes Kim look bad too. And you think about, oh, how does this affect the kids? I'm sure the kids are obviously affected by this too. One other quick point I'll make about this. Do you guys remember about a month ago when Kanye was also lashing out? He invoked this old unsubstantiated rumor about Ariana Grande and Mac Miller. Here's what the rumor is, and I don't know where it came from. It bubbled up online in the wake of Ariana and Pete splitting up and in the wake of Mac Miller dying. The rumor is that while Mac Miller was still alive and Pete got with Ariana, that they were kind of beefing, and that allegedly Pete sent intimate photos of himself with Ariana in bed to Mac. Again, unsubstantiated, no outlet that we're aware of ever reported it as true, and yet the rumor exists, right? When this happened, and we're about to do a story on this right now, because I was working yesterday, I saw Mac Miller trending online. I was like, what the hell is this all about? You hop in the trend. People are speculating, wow, like that, then those Ariana Mac Miller rumors were definitely true then, huh? And I'm not saying that this proves that one way or another, but it kind of opens that door of like, well, if you were able to pull it here with high profile people like Kim and Kanye, what's to say that you wouldn't pull something like this with less high profile people? Not Mac and Ariana are still super famous, but people saw this and thought, wow, he is definitely capable of this type of behavior.
I'm going to defend Pete Davidson. Mac Miller has since died.
Sure.
So whatever his character, whatever the situation, it's completely different now because you look back through a different lens and it's sad. We have no idea what the relationship between Pete, Ariana, Mac was. They might have been monsters to each other.
True.
So one thing does not mean that Pete is now evil because...
Right.
So let's pivot here for a second.
Yeah.
Taraji P. Henson really went hard for Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett, obviously, on Friday was sentenced to 5 months in prison, in jail in Illinois for after his conviction on charges that he lied to police in setting up the entire Osundario brothers hoax. And this weekend, Taraji just went in on
defending him,
law enforcement, on everybody who's come after Jussie Smollett. It is a hot take from Taraji P. We know they work together, but to come out so vociferously and say that he is being persecuted as civil rights leaders in the past have, it was really something.
The reason this was so controversial is because she invoked Emmett Till, and she tried kind of making a comparison. And as I was writing the story, I was trying to understand, because it's such on its face, it's such an outlandish comparison, and like what are you saying? But I was trying to understand what she was saying. She was essentially saying the people that lied about Emmett Till, all the white folks that lied about Emmett Till and that got him and that ended up killing him and that went to trial and ended up skating on charges completely. And they were, I think they were acquitted at the time. She was basically saying those people lied about Emmett Till. There was violence in that case, and yet they got off. And in Jussie's case, he allegedly lied and was convicted of that. No violence, or there was no harmed parties or anything, and yet he's in jail. So she seemed to be kind of making a comparison and invoking like a race factor. And she seemed to think, she thought something was amiss with that. But people thought her bringing up Emmett Till at all as it relates to Jussie was a slap in the face to the legacy of Emmett Till and what everything that means. And frankly, it is. Like, it's inappropriate. I thought it was... I tried understanding the nuance of what she was trying to say, but it was just a bad take in my opinion. I just didn't see anything. There's no parallel there whatsoever in my mind.
Do you want to come with me on a TMZ deep dive?
Let's go for it.
Okay, so here's why I found this very interesting. We did stories back in 2015. Her son was pulled over by police, and she came out and said that he was racially profiled when after the police. The video came out from the police, and the son was wrong. He ran through not a sidewalk, I'm sorry, a crosswalk while it was lit. Somebody was in there. He had marijuana in the car. He was underage.
Okay.
She came out and had to publicly apologize to the Glendale Police Department. So I just think that after that's happened once in your life, let's just stay in our lane.
So essentially she's seemingly once again kind of trying to characterize things in like a
look, what she said is indefensible on a factual level. We know that. She is good friends with him, and she does feel that he was wronged. And I think there's an argument to be had that he was needlessly punished for what could conceivably be a victimless crime.
Right. Well, even that's up for debate.
That is up for debate. But I just don't want to cast her aside. Like, she's the kind of friend I would like if I was in trouble.
No,
because
100%.
She's never going to turn back. That said, the Emmett Till thing is obviously too far. What Emmett Till endured, at the hands of a white mob and that, was awful, and they were never convicted, and that is an awful thing. But here, it was not a white mob that convicted him at all, right?
Jussie brought, as the judge rightly noted, he brought this upon himself.
And also, let's not forget that the two primary witnesses against him were African.
Right.
The head of the Chicago Police Department that led this investigation and was so outraged by Jussie Smollett's conduct was African American. So this is not a white mob out to get Jussie Smollett.
And this is not even a race issue, because that's the thing. Even I missed this last week, but during the conviction, not the conviction, but the sentencing, Jussie and everybody, they were kind of trying to play the race card a little bit, trying to make it seem. And
you play the defenses you have.
Yeah, of course. And it's just interesting because with Taraji here, she starts off her comments by saying, "I am not here to debate you on his innocence." What is that? That's what I'm saying. Everyone that's coming out in support of Jussie Smollett is very telling to me. It's like, well, what exactly are you coming out and defending here?
She's saying the punishment doesn't fit the crime. And
sure, which is a fair argument to make.
But here's my ultimate pushback on that. Jussie Smollett was offered a plea bargain all the way through, which he could have accepted, which resulted in 0 jail time and just the payment of restitution to the city of Chicago of $130,000, whatever it was. He denied that. When you refuse a plea bargain and you put the state through its paces to go to trial and you are convicted, you can never get the sentence that matches the plea bargain offer. Else nobody will accept plea bargains. They will just roll the dice and go to trial.
Right.
So you've got to punish and this happens in every case, everywhere. If you go to trial and you're convicted, you are necessarily going to be sentenced for more than the plea bargain offer. And here, he got 5 months in jail. He could have gotten up to a couple of years in jail.
Right.
It's a reasonable sentence. It sure doesn't not match the crime. Maybe it's a little harsh for the crime, maybe. But you can't give him just probation because that's what he was offered and denied and turned down.
And not only that, but he tripled down on his innocence yet again as he was being led to jail.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jussie, one other note about this. So his brother went online this weekend also pleading his innocence, et cetera. But he was also saying, he kept touting the fact that, my brother is not, he's not unstable. He's not suicidal. That's something that Jussie himself was saying. That's something his family has continued saying in support of him. And his brother said, we've learned that my brother's now in a psych ward in the Cook County Jail, suggesting they're setting my brother up to essentially off himself or something like that. That's kind of that's what they're alluding to here. And his brother was once again saying, my brother's not suicidal. My brother's not unstable. He shouldn't be in a psych ward. We cleared it up because that's what I'm saying. This is so much misinformation about this. We talked to law enforcement sources who told us that high-profile inmates, and Jussie is in protective custody, by the way. He's not going to be around other inmates in Gen Pop or anything like that. They put these high-profile inmates in the psych ward wing just because they're high profile. That it doesn't necessarily mean that you're in there with a straitjacket and that you're loony, but that's what his brother kind of made it seem like. And it's just a mess on that whole story. But
speaking of people who are going places that they didn't want to return to, or that we never thought they'd want to return to,
that's a hell of a segue there.
Tom Brady has decided that he's going to come out of retirement and rejoin the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Surprise!
Lord, somebody check on Giselle.
Yeah, people were talking about that this weekend. So first of all, is anybody actually surprised by this? I'm not surprised one bit.
A little bit. A little bit.
Really?
I thought we'd get teased for a while. It has been 2 months.
I know. It's almost kind of like, why'd you retire in the first place? What are you doing out there, bro?
It almost reminds me of when you pretend that you fell asleep at the sleepover because you want to hear what everyone says about you.
He did his own funeral to hear what the eulogies would be. I like this.
Everyone stood up and said, what a great guy, and there were montages, and then, just kidding, guys, I'm fine.
He was alive at his own funeral.
Yeah.
His rationale is essentially saying, I have unfinished business in Tampa. I'm coming back to the field to play. Okay, fine. Come back then. It's fine. I mean, the Michael Jordan comeback back in the 90s was way more dramatic because he actually left and he was away from for a full season, I think, and then came back and was triumphant, and that's why it was so legendary. If Tom Brady comes back, and we'll see what he does, but I'm like, why'd you leave in the first place? It's bizarre. And speaking of Giselle, people were saying Tom Brady was with Giselle for 2 months, and immediately he's like, nope, I'm not doing this. Screw this. I'm going back to work kind of thing.
That's not fair.
It's jokey, but people were...
I think if anything, it's the kids.
Yeah. It's the idea of parenting full-time.
I'm not made for it.
No.
Oh, no, my kid's preschool closed for a little bit. I was calling Harvey, looking for a second job.
No, when TMZ's offices open up, Jamie and I are like, hey, we're coming back. We're no hesitation here. Test me if you need to.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So I guess we can move on to Elon Musk.
This
is kind of a silly, somewhat interesting story. So Elon Musk this morning challenged Vladimir Putin to a fight. He wrote in Russian. He says, "I hereby challenge." He wrote Vladimir Putin's name in Russian signage to a single combat. Stakes are, and then he wrote Ukraine in Russian lettering. So basically saying, I'll challenge you to a fight. Winner takes Ukraine. Obviously, you can't take it seriously. I don't think Elon himself is taking it seriously.
No, but let's take it seriously for a second.
Okay.
Who you rooting for? I mean, they're both...
Who am I rooting for? I'm not rooting for
On the
Putin.
record or off the record?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it can't be a fight to the mutual death. That would be... No, I'm just kidding. Of course,
It's like celebrity death match.
Of course,
over here.
you want Elon Musk, but this will never happen. Sort of a not surprisingly an attempt to get for Elon Musk to get himself into the conversation.
Yeah, and he's already kind of been inserted into this whole thing because he's been, this is a good thing he's been doing. He's been offering internet services to people in Ukraine via his I think it's called Starlink, his Starlink satellite. Yeah. And he also said, "Oh, if Putin tries taking out the ISS, I'll stop." I'm like, okay, that's great, cool, good for you. Another interesting thing, just kind of getting back to your hypothetical about who would actually win. Both of these guys have actual training in martial arts. Putin, it's unclear how good he is because he has like an honorary Taekwondo black belt.
We've seen him in hockey matches where other people let him win.
We know Putin is like kind of physical and kind of active. Apparently, Elon though has actual training from when he was a kid. Like he told Joe Rogan on his podcast appearance like a couple years ago that he did Taekwondo as a kid, karate, did a little bit of jujitsu. So he says he knows a little bit of martial arts.
These are two flabby, middle-aged men with a lot of money.
Yes.
End of story.
And the fact that Elon Musk took Taekwondo as a child doesn't lead me to believe that he's a great fighter today, right?
And I agree.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, look, Putin will not respond to it. Elon Musk, again, just trying to get himself into the middle of the conversation where he likes to be. It's where he's happiest in the middle of every conversation. So
and it's not lost on me that this comes in the wake of the Jeff Bezos announcement today with Blue Origin and Pete Davidson, but we're not going to get into that all right. And then finally, we have Naomi Osaka. This story actually is very, I don't know, to me, I have a bad hot take. I'll just preface that right now and say it.
Let me lay out the story.
Okay, lay out the story.
Give you a hot take.
All
so
right.
Naomi Osaka was in a tournament over the weekend. Hecklers in the crowd yelled, "You suck." Fast forward to a few minutes later, she's in the chair between games, and she breaks down in tears.
So she in the middle of the match.
Yeah.
So the heckler is a woman saying, "Naomi, you suck," and you can hear it clear as day.
Yep.
It's like right, and the game goes on for a little bit. In the middle of a break, Naomi goes to the judge's chair, asks to speak to the crowd on her microphone. She's like, "I just want to address the crowd real quick. I'm not going to say anything nasty. I'm not going to curse. I just have something on my heart, whatever." The judge, the chair umpire is like, "No, no, like just carry on."
Right.
And it became this whole thing. There was a lot of pause over this. And then at the end, she ended up losing her match to, I forget the woman's name, Veronica something, excuse me. But at the end, Naomi still wanted to address it, and she did. And she was like crying and breaking down and saying, "Listen, I've dealt with hecklers before. I can deal with hecklers. But the heckling here, especially at where it was at the Indian Wells tournament," she said back in the early 2000s, Venus and Serena Williams were also heckled here. And she says, and that brought up memories for me. And essentially she alluded to the fact that Venus and Serena Williams were treated super unfairly. And she felt like that was sort of, in history was sort of repeating itself with her, so she was really hurt by that. Right. And by the way, that whole Venus and Serena thing, like people were claiming race. There was a lot of a lot of elements at play with that too. Look, for me, it's like I understand where she's coming from, but at the same time, it's like, look, you're a professional athlete. Like, can you just
so there's a conversation to be had here about when fans go too far, and is this too far, and should we rein it in? We've seen in the NBA efforts by superstars to rein people in.
But is a woman yelling "you suck" in the stands? Who knows how far out in the stands she was?
Here's my takeaway as somebody with zero experience in mental health whatsoever. Naomi Osaka is not in a place to play. If this kind of thing sets her off to the point that she breaks down, and I'm not taking away her feelings at all. She's entitled to those, and these hurt her deeply. But to your point, Jamie, this is part of being a professional athlete. You get this kind of treatment. But Jamie, what do you think? Should we rein this kind of stuff in from fans? And
as a fan, I think it's pretty gutsy that when you know where Naomi Osaka is mentally. So to do that is pretty evil on its own. But you can't tell somebody that they can't say you suck. That's fourth grade.
And as a matter of fact, we're now having a new conversation. I think it's always been the case that fans try to get in the heads of the opposition.
Yes.
Right. This woman apparently was a fan of the woman who yelled, apparently a fan of the other player. And she tried to get into Naomi Osaka's head. And because Naomi Osaka has some mental health issues she's going through, she reacted in a way that is more profound than anybody else that we've ever seen, frankly, react on the court to this kind of thing.
Yeah, because I mean, kind of like you're saying, this is part of the game, like fans taunting the athletes. Part of the athlete's job, and the reason why we revere athletes, not just because of their physical prowess and what they can do and what they're doing, but like being able to overcome mentally these outside forces and still perform.
You can't get a microphone every time someone says something not nice and have an odd, discombobulated speech.
You made a really good point. Michael Jordan is not the greatest physical athlete in the history of the NBA. He was mentally, he was a great physical athlete, but mentally the strongest person
It was a
played.
big picture.
And that's what made him so great. And we have always honored that as in Venus Williams and Serena Williams, two of the strongest emotional, mental people in the history of the game. Tiger Woods, another one, like the fierce determination. But with Naomi Osaka, she doesn't have that apparently. She's an incredible athlete, but she doesn't have that. So maybe she shouldn't be there? I don't know. Is that too much to say?
I think you need a little time off. A little more. No, I'm not even trying to be funny. I think clearly we're not ready to be back.
It wasn't a lot long ago where she was literally boycotting, doing post-game press conferences, citing mental health. And at the time, I'm not going to lie, this is the cynic in me. I was like, that's such BS. Like, you just don't want to talk to the press. You're just citing mental health as a cop-out. Now with seeing this, I'm like, no, she was being 100% honest, and she actually has issues.
Here's the really sad part. Obviously, a phenomenal tennis player, one of the greats.
Right.
Also, up until 2 years ago, a great voice. She was so kind to kids, so sweet to everybody, and a real proponent of the game and women's athletics generally in a way that she was and she's also binational, right? She's Japanese and I believe she's Haitian. I believe, maybe, and I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong. I think, but is living in America, so she's able to sort of transcend all the divisions that come up, and she's biracial and all this stuff. So I admire her so much, and I think she's taking away from some of her legacy in this way, and I think that's unfortunate.
Yeah, she just needs thicker skin. I mean, that's.
Well, she's very young. So
she is young. You're right.
Let's hope that we get a little.
She
thicker
can grow
skin,
into it more.
Come on back.
Yeah,
be the superstar she is.
I would take her in a fight over Elon Musk.
I agree.
All right, guys, thanks very much. Listen to your podcast wherever.
We got to plug the podcast
wherever
we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on our website, we're anywhere you might be able to download podcasts. So check us out. I think we're on YouTube too somewhere. So
later, guys.
We'll catch you next time.